What's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Realistic Summer Career Mode. This is episode number 77. We're starting today's stuff on the back of our win over Leicester at the King Power in the Champions League quarter-final. A recap, if you missed it, our semi-final draw, Manchester City. Yep, our former team, who we left after 1 year at the Etihad Stadium. First leg of the San Siro, second leg back in the northwest of England. Last year, Pep's side dumped us out of the Champions League quarterfinals on their way to the final, only to lose to Juve. But this season, Wolfsburg take on Real Madrid in the other semi, and we've got Man City again. Round 2. This time, can we avenge our demons? Well, if we don't, then I do wonder what's going to happen come the end of the season. Because, you know, last year we were asked to win the double and also reach the final of the Champions League. And we failed 2 of the 3 objectives. We only won the Coppa Italia, and we finished in 3rd place in the Serie A, dumped out of the quarter-final of the Champions League when we were asked to reach the final. Now, this season, we were locked out in the Coppa Italia semi-final by AC Milan, so we're not going to retain our Coppa Italia this year. We know that. How unlucky was this goal, by the way? So we know that. But in the Serie A right now, 3 games today, 3 of the final 7, and there's a chance to win the title. We're now 14 points clear of Juventus. The fact of the matter is, it's going to take an absolutely epic bottle job if we're not going to win this title. We would imagine that, you know, 1 trophy is going to be won, and that will be our first Serie A since joining Inter Milan. But I do wonder how the board would view this. You know, another season of spending big, rebuilding this side, bringing in star players, and once again failing to hit objectives. If we fail to win the Champions League, and especially if we don't reach the final like last season as well, I wonder how the board would see that. Only 1 trophy, this year asked to win 3. I've got to say, I'd feel a little bit nervous. I was a little bit nervous towards the end of last season, but I thought, you know what, first season, give me some time, and I'm sure I'll sort it out this season. But this year, I was going for a minimum of a domestic double. Well, at the moment, we know we're not going to get that, and we might not even get a double in general. It might just be the league. And for the first game of today's episode, Udinese here at the San Siro. As we know now, I said a moment ago, they're 14 points clear of Juve. The title is ours to lose. Juve have completely bottled it in the second half of the season. They were unbeaten halfway through, but in the second half, particularly in mid-season, they had an absolute collapse. But taking on Udinese here, we were tied at 1-1 after they cancelled out our opener. Their leveler was so frustrating, but 64 minutes in, Matheus Nunes, man, he's so good. He scored our first goal, and in our second in the second half, 11 for the season in the league now as well. I can't tell you how important this guy is to me, man. Seriously, he's so good. And, you know, I took him off at the break against Leicester in midweek at the King Power. And one of the reasons why was, A, to slow the tempo down because we were leading by 2 in the first half. Not to try and kill the crowd off. So, Jorginho coming on as a bit of a deep line playmaker, I thought would be more better than Nunes is kind of like fast pace in my team. But he's just so good because I also wanted him to be fit enough to play this game. Good decision in the end because he bagged a brace in this one, and then Memphis came off the bench for Chiesa to get our 3rd with 30 minutes to go. 3-1 victory over Udinese. Maybe not my best performance of the season, but another win and another step closer to that Serie A title. There's no doubt about it. Like, the minimum expectation for me this year was to win a double, and the Serie A had to be won. I wanted to make sure the Serie A was going to be ours this season after last year, asked to win it. And, you know, when we took over, only 6 games have been played. I mean, like, when I took over last season, only 6 games had actually occurred in the Serie A. There's plenty of time for me to sort it out. It's not like Inter Milan had lost their first 6 either. They'd won a couple, yes, and they'd lost a couple as well. But really, it wasn't a terrible start from Inter Milan when I took over. Not a great start, of course, but I just never really got it sorted last year. I was never really that consistent in the Serie A, but this year, the second half of the season in particular, has been really consistent. Another win there, as we know now, 14 points clear of Juve, 6 games to go, and that'll mean for our second of the 3 games today, midweek clash away in Turin against Torino. If we would win this game and Juve would fail to match our result, we would have seen pre-game by the lads dressed in their suits, we would know the title would be won in Turin. So heading into the game, I wanted the job done. With Man City coming in 7 days' time, that Champions League semi-final, I did not want to play Roma on the weekend knowing we still might need to get a result in order to wrap up the title. I wanted it done before both legs of those Champions League semi-final against Manchester City, so I can rest a lot of my players, if not all of them. And what a perfect start here away in Torino as well. 2 goals up early. First Chiesa, probably should have been saved, but then what a leap from Gasperoni. You know, we saw very recently against Napoli, Santoro scored his first goal for the club. That's Gasperoni's first goal, I believe. What a leap that was. I mean, he's a tall lad, don't get me wrong, but my goodness, that boy flew through the air, MJ style. 2-0 up Inter Milan in the first half, and I'll be honest, after that, I kind of just retained possession, conserved energy. We were leading by 2, we knew the job was done, and with 18 minutes to go, we wrapped it up to make it 3. Gianluca Scamacca, what a signing he has been. Most of his goals have come in the Champions League, but still he's got a hat-trick this season in the Serie A as well. And this, our third on the night, on the Wednesday, as we beat Torino 3-0. And the celebrations post-game would tell you all you need to know. Yep, news filtered through on the radio, checking whatever the equivalent of BBC Sport is in Italy. That would do it. We knew it. Juve had slipped up, and Inter Milan have been crowned champions of the Serie A in Turin. You love to see it. So, yeah, it's been a great second half of the season. You know, like, starting the season off, obviously we led, I think, 2 games in, and then after that Juve went top, and we can never de-seat them. They just stayed top for the whole first half of the season, and they just refused to slip up. And on the very rare times where they did only manage a point, they still didn't lose. They still got a draw. They're undefeated in their first 19 games, and then we would slip up at the same time. It was such a frustrating first half of the season, but in the second half, I got to say, man, like, Juve just absolutely bottled it, and I think it's sort of like Juve lost it and we won it, if that makes sense, because another slip up for Juve there, 16 points clear. Hellas Verona in third are only now 5 points behind Juve. And I've got to be honest, it's a little bit disappointing because, again, 5 games to go, 16-point gap is mathematically confirmed. The Serie A is ours. Now, we can equal Juventus' points record in the Serie A of 102 if we win the remaining 5. We can't set a new record, but we can equal it with 102 with 5 straight wins in our final 5 games. But it's kind of a bit disappointing because, like I said, you know, during the first half of the season, don't get me wrong, it was frustrating. Of course it was frustrating when you're doing your absolute best and you're still losing. It's frustrating, but it was really fun. You know, like, it was, unlike in dating, I actually like the chase, you know. Like, I like the chase in FIFA CM. It's fun, man. It's really enjoyable when you've got a team that's just absolutely dominating and you're doing everything you can to stick with them, and you just can't seem to capitalise on any minor slip-up they have. And I wanted a good title race. I really did. You know, last year Juve and Roma were in that title race, and Juve in the end pipped Roma to win it. We were never really in it, though. Like, we were never really in the title race last year. We were just trying to get in the top 4, and in the end we finished in 3rd. We were never really a serious threat to either Juve or Roma, but this year we were the main threat to Juve's crown, and I really liked the way they started the season off. It was really, really challenging. It was really difficult. And I've talked about it so many times. One of the reasons why this year's FIFA for me has been one of my absolute favourites to make videos on for YouTube, because the challenge has been really fun. And I know that I sound like a broken record when I say this, but, you know, go back like 3 or 4 years. You know, sometimes, like, you could win the Premier League in, like, the first season or maybe the second season with a newly promoted side, you know. Nowadays, you can't do that. It's a bit more realistic. The game's a lot more difficult. And so I was really enjoying the first half of the season. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, we've been on an incredible unbeaten run. In the Serie A, we hadn't lost a game since Empoli back in December, I think it was, or possibly November. So it's been a long run, unbeaten in the Serie A of over 20 games. And it came to an end here against AS Roma. Typical, isn't it? As soon as I get the job done the following game, that unbeaten run comes to an end. But I actually have to say I was a bit disappointed in the second half of the season with Juve, because, again, I feel like it's a case of both. It's like Juve kind of lost it and we kind of won it. You know, for a long time they were looking unbeatable. They were looking like they could repeat their invincible season like they had several years ago, and in the end they just totally tanked it. You know, to have a 16-point lead with 5 games to go, when you think about the way the first half of the season went, that's pretty poor form from Juventus. But it does kind of show you what I often talk about, which is that form in FIFA career mode is just a bit too OP. Now, as I will say, and I've repeated a few times, form should be in the game because you see it in real life as well. How many times you see a team get off to a flying start in the Premier League, for example, and they're capitalising and banking on good form? I think two examples to start this season off have been Fulham and Brighton, and then sometimes teams start off, quite poorly when you expect them to do better, and they start to doubt themselves a little bit going into the next game. Self-doubt starts to creep in. That's form. That's form. It's a real thing that should be in the game as well, but it's a little bit too OP. Again, you look at Juve's first half of the season record, unbeaten. I think they had 17 wins in 19 or something. Now you look at them, what have they won in the second half of the season? What, like 5-6 times? That's really poor, but it shows you just how OP form is. As soon as a team goes into bad form, and a big team as well, it seems to be really difficult for them to get out of it. It shouldn't be as exaggerated as this, but even so, we do win this Serie A, and it was a great challenge. It really was in the first half of the season, not so much the second, but despite the loss to Roma here, doesn't dampen the celebrations. I said this year I wanted a double at the very, very least. The ball are asking for the treble. We can't retain our Coppa Italia, but we have got our first Serie A. That was the bare minimum expectation this season. So one down, one gone, and hopefully one to come. Inter Milan Serie A champions, but got to put that to my back of my mind. Can't equal the points record in the Serie A now, so for the final 4 games, I'm just going to throw out backup sides, but we've got Manchester City next. Yep, first leg coming at the San Siro, second leg a week later at the Etihad Stadium. Our first loss since the defeat to AC Milan in the Coppa Italia semi-final. 4 games to go in the Serie A. Can't equal the points record. So for all of our remaining games, I'll be fielding weakened sides with all of my attention on Manchester City. Last year, knocked us out of the Champions League quarter-final when we were asked to reach the final. This year, asked to win the trophy, we got them in a semi. Can we avenge our demons or lightning strike twice? With that, well, it's today's episode of the Realistic Summer Career, guys. Big thank you for watching. Really hope you have enjoyed it. If you haven't, please drop a like. Much love to you all. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you for the next episode of the Realistic Summer Career, featuring both legs of the Champions League semi-final, where my job might depend on the outcome. Forza Inter very soon.